All right, welcome back to Unscripted. I'm Kevin, and I have a very special guest with me today. This is Danielle Lappage. She's a wrestler from Canada. Hi, Danielle. Thanks for joining.
My pleasure.
So what we have going on with this Unscripted is we just sit down and just chat. I've had a number of our athletes, we just talk about life and nothing really planned, nothing scripted. So when we went into these quarantine situations, you were one of the first people I thought of to try to get on screen because like I told you, you're a butt kicker and a trailblazer, and I like that. Those types of people are the people I like to hang around with. So so we're just gonna kind of chat and shoot from the hip and see how you're doing with things. And you're currently in Calgary, right?
Yes, I'm in Calgary, Alberta, Canada.
Okay.
Yes, I'm originally from, it's called Olds, Alberta. It's a small town an hour north of Calgary. So yeah.
And then you went to college in Vancouver, Simon Fraser, and that's how you and I met, right?
Yes. Yeah, I went to
Yeah.
SU. I was in Vancouver for 9 years, which is a long time. But yeah, went to university there and it was wonderful. I have no bad things to say. It was the best 9 years ever. So yeah. And yeah, that's where you and I met. I'm in Calgary. I'm back in school, and I'm training with the Dinos Wrestling Club. So under Coach Paul Ragusa, and with a lot of people know Erica Weeb. And so yeah, we're getting things done, wrestling around down here, or we were, I guess, before. Right now, Canada's we're not allowed. Everything's closed. I'm sure same with everywhere in the U.S. because of COVID-19. So we haven't since the Olympic qualifier. We got back on a Sunday and then everything started. So we haven't practiced since the qualifier. So almost 6 weeks now. We have like a separate strength and conditioning coach and a separate strength coach and a separate conditioning coach. And then Paul like arranges all the wrestling workouts and then runs all the wrestling workouts. So
Good.
yeah.
All right, cool. I'm a big fan of Paul. He's a good man.
He's the best. Yeah, I'm a huge fan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I first met you like in 2010. You were at Simon Fraser. I was working with Helen Maroulis and Vicky Anthony, and they were some teammates of you. And I think we kind of pinpointed 2010. You were a junior world champion. So then I just kind of started following along.
Yeah. I think like what I remember from you, the biggest influence you had was like I think it was 2014 or 2015.
Yeah.
And I had just, in 2014, I had just like had a good year with making my first senior world team on the Canadian team and going my first senior worlds and winning the university worlds and all that. So I felt like I was finally making it on the senior stage. And that was my first year doing that. And then that fall, like right after 2 weeks after my first senior world championships, I tore my ACL. And so that was in the fall of 2014. And then you reached out to me after that time.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you were a big help mentally in getting through that injury. And and I think the biggest thing was just, I don't know, for me, for our Olympic trials was a year after my injury. So I got injured in November 2014. Our Olympic trials was December 2015. And so it was like super difficult for me to like kind of accept the fact that I had it was my first major injury as well, and I had to get my first surgery ever. And it just seemed like my path towards like the 2016 Olympics was so clear, especially after I won the nationals in 2014, and then I had this injury kind of derailed my dream and my path towards my wrestling achievements. And so it was also super difficult because that injury, before that injury, I didn't really have to think about who I was without wrestling and who I would be if I couldn't wrestle, because I derived a lot of my self-worth, I guess, from sports success. And I had my entire life, which I did not realize until that injury, until like the threat of it being taken away was presented. And so yeah, you really helped me with that, like encouraged me to kind of do some soul searching, and you recommended some good books. Um,
Hmm.
my favorite of which was Relentless.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that really helped me that year. I mean, I haven't really gone back to it, but that year I had it highlighted and I brought it with me to every tournament. Yeah.
Yeah,
So it was kind of like a good luck charm as well in that year, especially. And so, yeah, that's why yeah, you.
cool. Yeah, we actually, it's funny. I'm sitting right in my kitchen, but just by chance, we're going through this with some of my other athletes right now. This in Mind Gym, so that's a game changer. That book, yeah, yeah. The way that I remember 2015 is, you were kind of like you're the up and coming superstar in Canada. I mean, if and I follow Canadian wrestling a little bit, especially from the women's scene, because we compete with you guys.
Yeah.
But there hadn't really been anybody before you, and there's been maybe a couple since, but like you came up through the age levels and you won a junior world title, you won a university world title, you made a senior world team when you were pretty young, and it was like you were the it thing. You were going to be the girl in Canada. And 2014, you're on the senior team. I'm sorry if I'm scratching,
No,
like bringing up
that's
old.
okay. I've like dealt with all this like a lot,
Yeah,
so it's like I'm pretty neutral about it all now.
yeah.
Yeah.
2014, you make the team.
Yeah.
Um, Helen had made a couple teams, and then you get injured. In 2015 comes around, and this is how I remember it. Like Canada had their little golden child coming up, and then all of a sudden they're like just like done. Thanks for playing, and just sort of like shoved you off to the side. And I don't know how if that's all true or not, but that was for me, had been working with Helen, that was a story that made sense. And so we reached out to you then in 2015 to help you kind of go through some of that stuff, because Helen and Vicky have also been kind of outsiders in the USA scene,
Right.
and I've been kind of an outsider doing my own thing. And here now you were faced with a situation where you kind of had to do your own thing, and then you got to the trials. So then we had gone through some books, we worked on some stuff, and that was really fun, and just like through Facebook, right?
Yeah.
And then 2015 came, and you like had no status, like you just basically got to come from the bottom and work your way up. And again, I don't remember all the details, but to me it seemed like you wrestled like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, like you wrestled like 4 days in a row, and you had to beat like 125 people.
Pretty
and
much.
then like and
Yeah.
then like on Thursday, maybe it was, did you wrestle 3 days or 4 days?
No, it was only 2 days.
No, it wasn't. It was three. Come on. It
No, it was
was three.
two.
You wrestled the mini tournament, and then you had to
On
beat.
Friday, and then so like I think I had 3 matches on the Friday, and then the Saturday I had like a semi-final and then best of three finals. I think I only had 6 matches. Um,
It seemed like 30.
it was just like weird because I mean, this year, this Olympic trials that just happened was different than that one. That one
Yeah,
was like super weird because based on how you did at the nationals, if you came top 3 at the nationals, you sat out of the tournament. So some people only had 1 match or 2 matches.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and then I obviously was injured at the nationals, so I like had zero, as you said, zero status, and I had to like come from ranked 0 and climb through the rankings. And so yeah, I
Mhm.
had like 6 matches, so a lot more than the other people, the top
Yeah.
3 people. Yeah,
So you had to win like the mini tournament, go up the ladder, then you had to beat number three, and then you had to beat number two, and
yeah,
then it was the best two out of three in the finals,
yeah,
right? Against Braxton.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that was pretty sweet. Yeah, and then I even remember then too, because we were doing stuff with Relentless and some Brene Brown stuff.
Yeah.
Like in between matches, I remember even we were texting back and forth.
Uh, yeah, it was like I guess I was mostly. I mean, that tournament is still one that was like the most special. It will forever be the most special tournaments for me, just because of the whole year before that and everything I had to deal with.
Mhm.
Um, But the funny thing, like by the time I got to that tournament, it was like there was like no doubt that like I had no doubt that I was gonna win. And it
Yeah.
was like it's like funny to say that just because Braxton and I had not ever competed against each other until that tournament. And she was had a really successful year that year.
Mm-hmm.
And so I mean I didn't really know why all that confidence came from because she was no Joe Schmo, you know, she was a
Yeah.
very successful athlete. And so I think it was like all that work that we had done. And it was just knowing all the work that I had done physically, mentally, and all that.
Mm-hmm.
It helped, yeah, helped my confidence. And it was like the most special tournament because not only was it like I wrestled up to that point, that was the best I had ever competed and wrestled, but
Mm-hmm.
also obviously winning, I won. And then
Yeah.
it was in Alberta. So my entire family was there. There was like 20 some people. Um, I mean, it wasn't in Calgary, but still, I had like a big support system there, and like all of my family, everybody I loved was there, so it just made it like that much more special. And I think
Mm-hmm.
like no matter what happens in the future, it's like that will always be the best tournament
Yeah.
just because of those reasons. So yeah, it was,
That's really cool.
yeah.
Yeah. Um, the yeah, that's really cool. So I was a fan of you up until that point for sure, but then having put some time and energy into you growing through those rough times, um, I became like the biggest Danielle Lappage fan that there was because how you overcame that that's tough stuff and you went in with full confidence. I felt really proud too because I we watched. I was sitting in this exact chair actually when we watched on the computer, and my wife and I watched, and it just like I'm like, wow, I was a part of that. That was pretty cool. So whatever, pretty
Yeah,
neat.
yeah.
Okay, so then I had some, I had the Daniel Lappage shirt, was getting ready for 2016, and um, I was in Rio and was in the back and the whole warm up thing. And we don't have to talk about that. I don't want to. Like you don't need to talk about that. But that was hard because
Yeah, it was hard.
talk about it.
It was hard, but I was so thankful that I did. We're gonna talk about it anyway, yeah.
Okay.
um, it was hard, but I was so happy that I had dealt with all the other pieces, not related to like getting overcoming injury, but like the other mental pieces, like who I am and those those little important, hugely important things in
Mhm.
2015. So then when I was injured in 2016, um, it was unbelievably difficult, but at least it wasn't like to the point where I wasn't able to continue. Like I don't know where I would be honestly if I hadn't dealt with those other pieces years prior. Just because the 2016 Olympics was like my year, you know, it was like the
Mhm.
dream and my dream that year specifically since I like started wrestling.
Yeah.
So it's like when your ultimate dream doesn't work out, it's like such a bigger bomb going off than like all
Mhm.
these little tournaments and littler dreams and goals you have. It's like when the ultimate dream doesn't come true the way you wanted it to, it's like that was super difficult for me, especially because I didn't even get a chance to try. Like I
Yeah.
got there, did all the work to get there, and I got there, and then I was injured in my warm up before my first match. So it just like it felt like unbelievable. It felt like a nightmare, you know, like it's like you're
Yeah.
pinching yourself all over the mat. Even like what the hardest part for me honestly was like my parents never travel. They like don't like traveling and they don't have like the means to travel, so they made it happen to come to Rio.
Mm.
And I just remember on the mat and like instantly being like, what the heck is happening? Because I walked out onto the mat to do my first match, and I knew I was hurt. I didn't know what was exactly wrong, but I knew something was seriously wrong because I couldn't really walk. And so when I had to forfeit the first match, I just remember looking up into the stands, and right in front of my mat, it's like my parents there, like just like looking at each other, looking at me, like my mom's like crying already, and I'm like just start bawling. And I think that's was the hardest part for me. Just like me, I know that I'm strong and I know that I'll be okay, but it's like it wasn't just my dream at that time. It was like my family's dream.
Yeah.
especially neck, hair, and stream. My whole town was so supportive. My little town, they like had the whole theater, the little theater in Olds. At 7, it was like 7 in the morning, something crazy in Olds, and they were like, the whole town was in the theater watching me, watching this 1 second of, yeah, yeah. Anyway, it turned out I had ruptured my hamstring in my warm up, and I have no idea why. It was like Mallory was my warm up partner, and I brought her to the Olympics with me, and her and I had warmed up a million times before, a million times the same warm up, and so there still is no explanation. I was feeling amazing, and so it was like, yeah, there's no reason why it should have happened, but it happened, and um, I've tried to, yeah, make the most of everything since. I that year I helped coach. Like, I went back to coaching. I still love wrestling, even though I was like heartbroken for myself. I went back to help coach at the SFU, and I was rehabbing. Didn't know if I would be able to wrestle again. Didn't know how my leg would heal because one of my hamstring muscles, whatever, was ruptured from my butt bone. But I didn't get surgery because it was only like the one of the three hamstring, and
Okay.
so I didn't know like how it was going to heal or whatever. So anyway, I really had no expectations about wrestling, and I was just trying to like enjoy wrestling and not resent it for what it put me through. But um, coaching really helped me do that, and the SFU girls are like amazing. Like, I loved every second of coaching, and I still love wrestling so much. So it was a really special year. Like, even though I wasn't able to compete or wrestle myself, it was like a year that I will forever remember as well, just because coaching is so different, as you know, from competing.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it is like it's in a different way, like so fun and so special. And so, and that was the only year that I really full time was coaching and not wrestling myself. And so I really actually really enjoyed it.
Mm.
And yeah, I grew so much in from 2015 to 2017. It was like I aged. I'm not even kidding. I feel like I aged 20 years. Like, I don't know when I became old. I think like after the Olympics in 2016, I went from feeling like a young buck to like I am like a veteran old lady.
Yeah.
Like, but just like my confidence in who I am, and like
Mhm.
my character and my life skills, and like I just feel like so much more wise as
Right.
well. But it just happened, like, I swear, in an instant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you go through what you have gone through, it's going to harden you. I mean,
Yeah.
so like 2015 was a big stepping stone that year for you mentally, emotionally, and to have to overcome, and then to get to where you were at in 2016, and then have another setback, and then to overcome that, and now have won a world silver medal and make the Olympic team again and be back in this situation. I mean, I think that, well, yeah, again, just a big Danielle Lappage fan, but it's like you're always um, like looking for that next challenge and looking ahead and not stuck in the back. And
Yeah.
that's something that I could tell about you when I first met you, which is why I've made an interest in your career and decided to continue to stay in contact, is because you're like a pioneer in our sport, and in so many ways. Here's my illustration for you. Okay, so like there are people that are either pioneers or they're settlers, and pioneers have to be moving, they have to be going, can't sit still, they can't stay where they're at, they're on the move and they're on the go. And so whether if it is in the wrestling world, you're pushing training, whatever it is you're pushing, but you're also quick to go to Vancouver 10 hours away from home, come back to Calgary and train with Polly, and like you're always on the move, you're always looking for that next thing, and you're probably never going to be comfortable settling for status quo, for what other people are doing,
Yeah.
and that's why you were willing to take a risk with a book like Relentless and some of the Brene Brown stuff that you and I did like a long time ago. But that's a character trait or an attitude that you have that you're going to keep pushing, you're going to keep improving. So um, I was super excited in Rio in 2016, and because I thought that that was going to be the time where you're going to realize your dream, you know.
Yeah.
And you were match number one, right? You were
Yeah.
the first out,
Yeah. The
and
number
that
one
was
hurts. Yeah,
mm,
it was crazy. It was like it all happened so fast too. My warm up was like 10 minutes before the start time,
mhm,
and yeah,
mhm,
it was bizarre. And then they were like, and then I was like got rushed to the Canada, the room, the
yeah,
all the medical staff is, and they're knocking on the door looking for me because I'm the first match. They need me to start the
yeah,
day.
yeah.
Yeah, bizarre.
Well, um, Helen's story was a pretty big one that day,
Yeah. Well,
and
yeah, she was the same day as me. Her and
yeah,
um like obviously I'm friends with Helen, and then the same day it was Erica too, my
Erica,
teammate,
yep,
and they both
hmm,
won gold medals. So it was like so weird how I felt because I was like so devastated for myself, but like I was sincerely so happy for them. And it was
hmm,
just like such like the highest highs and lowest lows on the same exact day, which was
hmm,
like made it like so much more difficult for me in the like as time moved forward because I was just so like emotionally confused as
oh
well.
yeah,
Like, but yeah, it was like a big day for Helen and for Erica. Yeah,
hmm,
which was it was amazing. Their stories were amazing. So yeah,
yeah,
I mean that was a little bit of happiness in my dark day. So
hmm.
yeah,
Well, this I'm going to leave you with a challenge and maybe some encouragement, because when with Helen's day, that was so good that day. Um, she had a major setback 4 years before that, and it took her a long time to get over it. And we all thought that she was going to realize that dream in 2012, and she didn't. And the in hindsight now, she wasn't ready for it. And um, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, even physically, she wasn't ready for what came with it. So you are fortunate that you're around Erica, and the demands of an Olympic gold medalist are a big deal. And I wonder if there was something else at work where physically, like, you were good, you were ready to go, but I wonder if maybe it wasn't your time, and now, having been hardened, got some more perseverance, and developed character in different ways, that 2020 was going to be your time, or now maybe 2021. So um
yeah.
yeah, I'm just really excited to see how you continue to overcome adversity and handle setbacks. And this was another setback, and Canada announced all this stuff with COVID before anybody else did, and I didn't think it was going to get to that. But then I see this article, and then again, you're the first person I thought of, and I sent you a message. I'm like, how can this keep happening to you? you
Dude.
know?
Yeah, I know. It was, I don't know. It's been that was like that was within like such a short period of time too. Like I had just qualified the weight on a
Yeah,
Saturday and I think they announced it like Monday. So it's like again, like highest highs to the lowest lows being like, oh my God, like they're gonna take away this away from me. And then it's
yeah.
like that that was my instinct is to like be super sad about it. But
Hmm.
then like it was like then I was optimistic, like there's no way they're gonna let the Olympics go on anyway. So and then of
Yeah,
course it got postponed, which is like way better obviously than getting canceled, but it's still like it was still difficult. Like now it's like I've come to terms with it and I'm very much on this path to 2021. But in the first few days after it was announced, the change, it's like, man, it F's up my entire life plan
yeah,
because I am like in law school and I had like plans for
right.
year after 2020. Um, and it included focusing on my last year of school specifically. And I was going to start articling and all this stuff. So I had to like rearrange my non wrestling life plans.
Hmm.
But I am confident that like a year will be good. It'll, like, my technique, I've never, like with Paul, he's really a technical dude. And I've never had that before. Like my technique is terrible. Like even in high school and my first few years of college, it's like, that's something that I've always been missing. And I'm a little late to start to like get there, but I am getting better just because through his technical like stickiness. And so that's
Mm.
like something that I'm super thankful for, that I get another year to like kind of work on some technical things that I've been missing. And so I am sure with another year that I'll be even better than I would have been this August. And so I'm trying to think those things moving forward, like the positive things, because
Mhm.
it is difficult. Right now, we don't know like when the next tournament's going to be. So it's hard for somebody like me who's like super goal oriented. Like I need to be working towards something. The Olympics obviously is happening, but in August 2021, and it's kind of hard to think that far ahead right now to work towards that right now. I
Mhm.
like thinking more short term,
Sure.
but I mean, I'm trying to just take it day by day right now, but when you start thinking of it more long term like that, it gets a little overwhelming.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I've been told over and over again, I do have anxiety to like calm down. Like,
Yeah.
like you don't have to think about the next year and a half, Danielle. It's fine. Which I know is true, but that's how my mind works. I have to really work on keeping it in the short term, keeping it in the moment, and stay mindful. And so
Mhm.
that's something I'm like consistently trying to work on. So yeah, I guess what I'm trying to say is the extra year will be good for me, and um, just like give me this chance to compete, please, at the Olympics, and
Yeah.
just please let it happen for me. And somebody just asked me, like, what are you looking forward to the most? Like, good job, you qualified. What are you looking forward to the most of at the Olympics? And I said, I'm looking forward to competing. Like, just let me compete, please.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it'll
Yeah.
be.
No, that's awesome. I mean, I don't know that there's going to be a person in the whole entire world as hungry as you to compete that day,
Mm-hmm.
so that's exciting. Yeah.
Yeah,
But it's also important to keep yourself in check and maintain a healthy perspective, and the opportunity of a lifetime must be seized in the lifetime of the opportunity, so it all would happen that day.
ooh, I
So,
like that. And
yeah.
also, it's like I know I sincerely do love wrestling. Um, like I have so much fun even training, and I know that I'm like getting to the end of my career, and so it's like I have to enjoy every moment. Like when you think that far in the future, it's like it makes right now kind of like erased, like you don't get to truly enjoy what you love to do. And so that's
Mhm.
another reason why I like try so hard to be mindful, because it's like I truly do enjoy training and I enjoy wrestling and I love this life that I'm living. And so yeah, so it's like you don't have to think about a year and a half from now. It's like just work on getting better today, and enjoy today. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm gonna be trying to do between now and then.
That's awesome. Well, speaking of today, I know you've got things to do here, but just what are one or two things non-wrestling that you're currently missing with being locked up inside? And I
Ooh,
mean, yeah,
not to do with wrestling because wrestling's
yeah.
number one.
Well, for sure, of course.
Definitely like seeing right now we're actually my boyfriend and we're driving all my nephew. I have 5 nephews, and
Yeah.
they live an hour and a half away. And actually, one of my nephews has been born since this lockdown happened. I haven't met him yet because I've been terrified.
Oh,
So, I mean, we're
yeah,
not allowed to like see them or like touch
yeah,
them, but we're gonna go drive there and like say hi, because that's like for sure what I miss most is just
yeah.
like hanging. My 5 nephews are like my favorite people in the whole world.
That's
And
cool.
so yeah, and just like hanging out with people
Yeah,
in person, it's
yeah,
like
yeah,
yeah, this is the only like Zoom is the only way you can like talk to people these days, so or hang out.
yeah.
So I do miss. I'm like quite an introvert, I think, in many ways. Um, but I miss like my core crew, like hanging out
Mhm.
in person with that core group of people who give me energy. And
Yeah,
so, yeah.
totally. Yeah, I miss like little coffee shops. I'm like a little coffee shop
Oh, me
snob.
too. Me too, actually. Like my homework and everything, like every time I just finished my semester yesterday, actually, but like the last 6 weeks, I've had to stay in here and like do my homework in this little room. And I'm so sick of this room because usually before this happened, I would never be doing work here. I would always go to the coffee shop or to the library and get out of here. So that's another good one to add.
Yeah. What is your drink that you get at little coffee shops?
Ooh, I like well, so usually I just get like drip coffee to be
Mhm,
honest, but when I'm
mhm.
feeling like super like I super deserve it, I get flat white. I love
Oh,
flat whites, yeah.
yeah. Good.
Yeah.
All right. I drove a half hour today to get coffee for my wife. She's at work and she didn't sleep well. So I drove a half hour to this fancy dancy little coffee shop in the Twin Cities and got her this drink. It's called the Spy Girl from Spy House
Ooh,
Coffee. And
what
it's
is that?
lavender honey. So yeah, so that's what we do. So
Aw, yeah.
yeah, well, very good. Well, go meet your new, did you say nephew or
Yeah,
niece?
5 nephews.
Yeah. All right. Fantastic. And keep changing the world. Keep doing what you do. I'm excited to watch your journey and maybe be a part of it from a long distance and continue to encourage you and cheer you on.
Thanks, Kevin.
Yeah.
It's a
Thanks for
lot of,
chatting.
yeah, anytime.
All right.
Have a good weekend.
Yes, you too. Thank you.
Bye.